Hello and welcome back. It's Lois here, and today I'm going to be showing you how I painted this Cornish scene looking out over the cliffs and the sea on a lovely bright summer day. I want to keep this really simple, so I'm just sketching in a few little cottages on a cliff top with the sea in the distance and a few rocks over on the left, maybe a bit of scrubby ground. So starting off with pencil, then going over it with waterproof fine liner, because this is going to be a line and wash or ink and wash painting. You can pause the video here if you want to refer to my line work. But just before I get into the demo, just to let you know that my book Landscapes in Watercolour is available to purchase from all good bookstores. I'll leave a couple of links in the description below, and it covers all the basics for watercolour painting with 10 tutorials, step-by-step ones, 5 pure watercolour and 5 line and wash. I'm using Saunders Waterford cold press watercolour. It's taped to my board with ordinary decorator's masking tape, and my board's at an angle of about 20 degrees. I'm going to paint the sky first, so I'm wetting the sky all over, just leaving a few dry areas for clouds. I'm using a large Mottler brush. It's a Princeton Aqua Elite 1.5 inches, and this is sky blue or cerulean blue and cobalt blue. And you can see I'm just dragging it across the page, allowing the paint to run out a bit so it becomes paler, and just dragging it across the sky to create these lovely streaky wispy clouds. I can just carefully use this flat brush to cut around the cottages so that I keep them paler. And then if there are any sort of hard marks in the sky, I can take a smaller sort of size 6 mop brush and just clean and damp and just soften a few areas. Just a bit more paint just to keep that nice and dark, top right corner. Then just a little bit more softening back with this clean, damp mop brush. It's really important not to use a wet brush at this point, otherwise you could create cauliflower marks. Then lay the board flat so that the sky paint doesn't run down the page. And now I've washed my brush out and I'm going to wet the land. And I'm going to use sap green, a bit of burnt sienna and a bit of raw sienna for a bit of variation in the green, and just very quickly and loosely paint over the land area to produce the suggestion of grass and some other small sort of scrubby wild plants, the kind of thing that grow on top of a cliff. Maybe some gorse, that sort of thing, just low growing bushes. You can see that I'm sort of using different directions of my brush strokes, and this helps to increase the suggestion of naturalistic looking sort of growth of grasses and plants and things on the cliff top. So this is more wet in wet painting. You can see that as I add in slightly stronger dabs of paint into this foreground area, everything's still sort of softening and diffusing. So a bit more burnt sienna, and I've dipped into a little bit more of my sky colour just to add a bit of shadowing, subtle shadowing to that area too. This is ordinary fine ground table salt. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of that into the damp paint in the foreground, and this should just create some pretty little miniature blooms where each grain of salt pushes the paint away, and this will just increase the suggestion of foreground grass and plants. Once everything's dry, I can continue and just finish off the scene. I'm going to paint in the sea slightly darker, and I'm going to use masking tape and put a bit of masking tape across just above the horizon to protect the sky. And then I've taken my sky colour and added a little tiny bit of burnt sienna into the cobalt blue and sky blue to desaturate it a bit. Then I'll work around the cottages and then just drag a bit of the paint across the sea so I get some dry brush. That gives me sort of the illusion of light sparkling on the sea beyond the cliffs. If it looks a little bit untidy, I can just sort of smooth it out a little bit with my flat brush. This is a 3/4 inch flat brush. And then remove the masking tape, and you can see I've got a nice clean horizon line. I can use a little bit of tissue to dab out any paint that's got into the white walls of my cottages, and then I can just make a few adjustments to that sea, just so I get a sort of smoother transition between the darker blue and then the lighter part on the left where the sun is hitting the water. I'm going to try not to fiddle too much and keep the horizon nice and straight. I think that's just about okay. And now to paint the rocks, I'm using a bit of Payne's Grey and Sepia with a touch of the sky colour in, and using my flat brush, it's a 3/4 inch flat brush, just to paint in those rocks. And this darker tone really does help to make the cliff edge sort of stand out a bit better. And now I'm going to use a lighter version of that rock colour, just a nice light value grey, to add a bit of shadow to the foreground, and then a bit of shadow underneath the cottages, just to sort of bed them into the landscape a bit more. And I think that might look a little bit too dark, so just dab a bit of that shadow off with a tissue. And then I'm just going to use the palette knife and scrape a few sort of larger grasses and plants through that damp paint. And then lastly, just a bit of mid-value grey created from my sky colour with a bit of burnt sienna into it, onto the shadow side of the cottages and onto the roofs, again using the flat brush, leaving the two little walls that face out white, so that they look as if they're being hit by the sun. So keeping it really, really simple, just to keep this summer seascape nice and fresh and loose. And I think I'm going to call this done. So I'm just going to remove the tape and see how it looks with its clean white border. It's amazing how even a really simple sketch like this can come together really nicely when you remove the tape and see how it looks. It allows you to sort of look at it with fresh eyes. You can see if you need to make any adjustments. And I'm quite pleased with the way this has turned out. I really like sketching like this using the line and wash method. It's a great way of practicing simplistic drawing, and I think having some line work here like this before you start painting makes the job of painting so much easier, because you've got a very clear roadmap to follow, and it allows you to focus on keeping your brushwork nice and loose. If you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And also, please think about subscribing if you haven't already, as it really does help us with our reach, and it's free to do. And thank you so much to everybody that supports the channel on Patreon. We really do appreciate you. Many thanks again, and I'll see you again soon. Take care and happy painting. Bye.